Welcome to Kim's Creations and this special episode, which is a Halloween collaboration. It is the third annual Halloween collaboration put on by It's Art by Donna, the lovely Donna. So I want to thank Hema of Hema Art for passing you along to me, and up after me, we will get to check out the antics of two witches, Matilda and Josephine, who are the creations of Jane. So I'm looking forward to that. So stay tuned and follow us all along over to Jane's channel, Matilda and Josephine, after this. So right now, I am creating a witch's hat as my project for Halloween. And you will get to come along for the trials and tribulations that I had in doing this. And let me tell you, I learned a lot. Right here is my second mistake. And no, you didn't miss my first mistake. I will get back to that. But here I am using spray paint. And I had no idea that you should not use spray paint on styrofoam. And you can see I'm turning and turning this and spraying more. And the reason is that the spray paint is actually melting the styrofoam, and therefore more and more of the white is showing from underneath. And the more it shows, the more I spray, the more it melts, the more I spray, until I eventually just give up on this whole idea and decide, all right, it's completely saturated. I'm gonna leave it overnight for it to dry, and I'll just see what shape it's in, the next day. So that was my plan. And this is what I came back to the very next morning. Look at that. It's all kind of eaten away and melted. It's melting. So I had to start all over again, and I had to go back and purchase more styrofoam, which leads me to mistake number one. And that is, don't use E6000 glue on styrofoam either, because it also melts it. So I eventually turned to a glue gun, just the regular glue from a glue gun, to glue the two pieces together. So yay, thank goodness that worked. And this time I am using just regular acrylic paint in black from Artist Loft that I mixed up with some house paint that was just the base, untinted house paint. And I poured that over this. And this will serve as the base for my witch's hat. In making this witch's hat, I got to wondering, how is it that we now always imagine a witch to be wearing a black pointy hat and black robes? I'm just going to focus on the hat part because that's what I'm doing. And I went and did some research. So way back in time, like 4th, 3rd, 2nd century BCE, there were these women around, and their mummies were discovered in the Tarim Basin in China, and they became known as the witches of Subashi. And I will post the pictures here. And they had these woven hats on their head. They were mummified, and these hats were 2 feet long, which is crazy long. A second theory as to where we got the black witch's hat comes from medieval times in continental Europe and has to do with anti-Semitism. Jewish men back in the 1200s used to wear pointed hats when they participated in Kabbalah rituals. And in 1215, there was a papal decree that said that all Jews had to wear this Judenhut as a means of identification when out in public. As the anti-Semitism increased in 1431 in Hungary, there was this feeling that the Jews were sorcerers and were into satanic rituals. And so those ones who had been accused of this had to wear these peaked Jew caps. As you can see on the table, I have my hat, I have my paints, and what my plan is that I am going to use all 4 of those paints and the black possibly to pour over my hat. So I'm going to take this little 4-ounce cup and I am going to layer these paints into the cup and then do a pour over the hat. So while I'm pouring the paints into the cup, let's get back to the witch hat history. So in England, in 1290, the Jews were expelled from the land. They weren't allowed to come back to England until 1656, when Cromwell allowed them to come back and settle. Now this leads into the Quaker religion. Women in the Quaker religion back in the 1600s, late 1600s, wore these black felt caps, and they became a fashion rage. And that fashion peaked in the 1700s along with this Quaker religion. Now, because their beliefs held that both men and women were equal and that women could also preach, this was seen as a threat to the British monarchy. So they started persecuting the Quakers. And of course, women were accused of witchcraft. So again, I was saying this is now the 1700s, and if you remember, the Jews were now back allowed in England right around this same time. So, you know, with both of them coming together, it's kind of no wonder that the black hat that they both were associated with and were both persecuted for became a symbol of witchcraft and sorcery and evil doings. And now back to my hat. So I did a layered pour the first time, as you saw me. It came out too black. I layered a second cup with no black, and I liked it much better. Now I have to say, I do like how it is dripping down and not completely covering the hat, because I still want to see some of that black that's on there. You know, you got to have a little bit of black on a hat, right? I mean, this is a witch's hat. Now, however, I let it dry, and it dried very, very muted, and I did not like it. So I will show you next what that looks like. So now that it's dried, I've decided, forget layering the cups. I am just going to drip it on straight from the bottles. That way the colors don't mix and don't get muted and don't turn that funky, weird, orangey, poopish color. Here's what it looks like after dripping the colors on it. It's still wet, but I did not put any of the black on it because I was afraid of it muting the colors, so I decided to wait till it was dry and then drip some black on it, just here and there. The paint has now completely dried. I love the way the drips look on this. And now it is time to start decorating. Now, you know, I can't complete my witch's hat story and history without referencing perhaps one of the most famous of all witches, which is the Wicked Witch of the West from the 1939 Wizard of Oz movie. The Wicked Witch of the West was portrayed by Margaret Hamilton, and it came out in 1939. It was not the first movie to be in Technicolor, but that movie with the Wicked Witch of the West all in black with green and the black pointy hat really cemented in the minds of people from the 20th century on into today what a witch should look like, what her hat should look like, and what the outfit should look like. And that concludes the historical part of the witch's hat. And now into more modern times, the witch's hat is known also as the cone of power. And I get that. You know, the pointy parts reaching to the heavens, and from there all the power from the universe comes in through the top of the hat and down into the person who is wearing it. Now, it's also said that perhaps the witch can point the hat towards someone or something, and a spell can come out and be directed to that person or thing. I kind of like that. It's so much better to have a cone of power than to have a cone of shame, don't you think? Anyway, that's my Halloween table centerpiece that I am just finishing up here. And I hope you're enjoying these 4 days of wonderful artists who are collaborating for Halloween. As I'm finishing up my little hat here, my K is for Kim and the S is for my last name, which is Sherwood. So I thought I would put both on there. And I hope you liked what I created here. I want to thank you for being here and a part of this wonderful Halloween collaboration that is extending from the 13th, Friday the 13th, the 14th, 15th, and of course, Halloween. If you have missed any of the other artists, the full playlist for the 4 days will be in my description below, so you can feel free to go back and watch it at your leisure. Now let's head over and see the antics of Matilda and Josephine.